So, good morning, students. And I'm here to talk to you on, rather, I say culture and art, not art and culture, because art is part of culture. So, we start with a very simple thing. What is culture? Culture is the sum total, the totality of the creations, non material creations, or even if those are material, if they indicate one particular culture, then the material thing is also culture. So, for example, computer is not culture, but but the Indian lota or the tumbler we use for drinking water, for drinking other things, that is culture. That indicates Indian culture. So naturally, every society has a culture. Every group has a culture that is called subculture. Every region has a culture that is called as regional culture. Now, when we just say this and we discuss the topic culture and art, we definitely are focused on one thing. What is the syllabus of UPSC? Culture is a very broad thing. Art is a very broad thing. But we will confine ourselves to the UPSC syllabus. Now, I must tell you that Indian culture and the history of Indian culture cannot be cognized, cannot be understood only by reading things, only by seeing things. Rather, we have to excavate many things. We have to dig many things out from the ground or from the underneath, because long back in history, there has been evidences now just all destroyed that can be known. But certain things are sometimes absurd. For example, probably we have read one news that in the excavation of Rakhigadi in this Haryana of the Indus remains, there is evidence of 5,000 years ago, the bricks and all these things. This is absurd. Why? Because the historical or the archaeological evidences, they say that in India we have encountered a defined prehistoric culture only 3,500 years ago, or before that. Now, coming to another thing. First thing I said that how we will know about the things which we cannot read, which you cannot just cognize at the first instance. That is done by archaeology. In India, in 1860, the British government appointed Cunningham as the Director General of Archaeology, and he is regarded as the father of Indian archaeology. India is a very, very ancient culture, a great culture. That way, A.L. Basham, probably have heard his name, read his book, The Wonder That Was India. Basham says one thing. There have been four very, very important cultures. One was Indic, another was Chinese, another was Greco-Roman, and another was the crescent of the Euphrates and Nile. Then actually this Nile culture of Egypt or Egyptian culture and the Tigris and Euphrates culture are not very different. They were connected, they were related. So broadly they are one. Greco-Roman is another, Greek and Roman and Chinese and third, and the fourth is Indian. All cultures, they discontinued. They were disrupted in course of time. But it is only India or Indian culture which has remained some or other here, Chulas and all that. The whole part, the subcontinent has continued to exist in a regular continuity. What's the cause? Some say the cause is the diversity and the acceptance of this diversity. Even Nehru, probably third chapter, Discovery of India, Nehru says, the people in India are very diverse, but they're united together in certain terms. I give you one example. You go Kashmir, you go Assam, you go Tamil Nadu, you go Gujarat. Ask for water. You say that I'm thirsty, give me some more water. First, they will try to know your genealogy. What is your religion? What is your caste? To which state you belong? And only then they provide you water. And if you happen to know the low caste or someone untouchable or a Muslim, and then Christian, then you say, oh no, we'll not provide you any attention, but you have your hands full. And then you drop your water. So this thing, this segmentation, this is part of Indian culture. It exists everywhere. Even the Muslims boasting about their egalitarian principles, egalitarian thoughts. How many Muslims are there who take their meals with their servants? Yeah. So this is part of, it may sound negative, but either negative or positive. This is a feature of Indian culture. So the first thing you have to do is that you read about archaeology, Indian archaeology. Who are the people? Cunningham was the man who tried to preserve it. And it is, I regret to say, we Indians have not been very sensitive to our cultural heritage. It's a fact. The Ashok Stambha, Jona Khan, alias Muhammad bin Tughlaq. His earlier name was Jona Khan. That curious fellow wanted to know after what these pillars are. And he invited all the intellectuals of his time. He didn't got the answer. But later on, Ajanta, Ellora, the lost in the garbage of history, and we did not know about it. But the Britishers, we may abuse them. They were the colonial masters. They did a lot of wrong with India, but then did some good also. And when we say this, we say that they have tried to preserve some of the archaeological evidence. Yeah. Now, after this archaeology, the second thing you must remember that history, when it is written, when it is recorded, that is called as history. Not recorded, but some symptoms, some symbols, some evidences are there. That is called as Indus. We have not still been able to decipher the language of Indus. But it's a fact that there was a script. It is unquestionable, and there's no doubt about it that they had a script. We do not. So there was an assembly. There was a kind of a large granary. All this is clear. The town planning, excellent town. It's a fact. So we know that this is town planning. This is what is called as half history, half lack of history. We call it proto-history. Well, there is no such cognizable evidence. We can simply guess, and then what happens? We say that it is prehistory. You just dig things, archaeological evidences, stone chips, all that, those are called as prehistory. So, if we divide Indian history or the past records, prehistory includes Mesolithic, Neolithic, proto-history includes Indus culture, history includes the basic Vedic culture, and from there onwards. The 16 Janpadas, the whole of the Buddhist religion, the whole of the Jainist religion, both were contemporaries, and then the whole of the Mauryan structure, all these things they continue to have. And then we have some kind of a records. At least Asoka used 2-3 languages. He used Brahmani, Kharosthi, Ardhamagadhi. All these languages were used by Ashoka. So we know that from that period onwards, we have some kind of a record, although I regret to say that we Indians have not been able, or we didn't have the tradition of recording history. Probably the first book of history by an Indian writer was by Kalhan of Kashmir. The name of the book is Raj Tarangini. When this Muslim Sultan came to India from, Muhammad bin Qasim came from the Sindh region, he had also historians with him. This Mahmud Ghaznavi, he had the Carthaginians, he had all warriors, but he had also historians. Al-Biruni was with him, who wrote the history of India by living here in 13 years, Tariq-e-Hind. So there's nothing to be ashamed about. This is only simply a typical feature of Indian culture. Charaivati, and God, why we mortals should be concerned with this recording of history. It is his kingdom, he will run the kingdom as he wishes, or as she wishes. That women might be angry on me that I'm only talking about God, he. No, they're God, she also. India is a great country. Go Assam, go Bengal, only Durga ji and only no gods. Shiva was defeated by Manasa, incarnation of Durga in Bengal. So this is everywhere. We do have everything somewhere. Biharis die. What for? Worshipping sun. Others die worshipping Vishnu. Others die worshipping the Shiva. Actually, it's a great country and we have all these things. Now, as far as prehistory is concerned, I told you, Mesolithic culture in India was, at least in present Madhya Pradesh, present Vidisha, south of the Vindhyas, there were people in the Mesolithic age who lived in the caves, mostly were nomadic, but when they lived in the cave, they just drew some figures, you can call them paintings. Mesolithic culture was famous for 3 things. One, the small microliths. Number 2, they're very beautiful, very beautiful. Number 2, the hunting expeditions. And number 3, their beginning of the cave life. The next is, in prehistory, Neolithic, New Stone Age. It was almost a revolution everywhere. All archaeologists, from this Morgan to all, the Wheeler, all people, they accept that, yes, Neolithic was the period in which people learned about domestication of animal and farming. Which came first? Nobody knows. My hunch is that cattle breeding came first and agriculture started. There are regions. This is not the time. when this opportunity comes, that will take just a period-wise class. I'm just trying to tell you that you have to read. There are no questions till date in UPSC about neology, but there have been twice questions on Mesolithic. The question was that Mesolithic aesthetics was better or was good even compared to the present standards. Now come to the Indus culture. As far as the Indus is concerned, that's proto-history. Indus culture definitely was a developed culture. There were contemporary Sumeria was a contemporary Sumer culture was a contemporary of Indus, much inferior. They had no town planning, and that kind of town planning which the Indus people had, that was great. All right angle roads, all movements, separate quarters for the nobles. Then for the commoners, they were the simple quarters. So this is, you have to write. There will be, I think, 4 types of questions. Number 1, that what are the evidences in Indus that is still continuing to be in India? The bullock cart, or many things. Still Indians are somewhat very, very much similar things are used even now as the Indus people. The second is town planning, right about town. The third is their achievements in art. There is a dancing girl, there is a priest of a bronze, they are patriarchal people, numerous terracotta. That is clay-made features or figures of the mother goddess. Some people say that there was a Shiva, probably hunter, mogger, wheeler. They do not agree on this, but there definitely was a own god. It maybe just imagine that he was a Shiva or earlier Shiva. So this is the thing that, or these are the things you will get questions: town planning, the cultural achievements, the similarities with modern culture. Now, when you come to the Vedic culture didn't have written script. In fact, it came only in the 3rd century BC. Vedic culture started somewhat 8th century BC or 9th century BC. But here in the Vedic culture, there are literary achievements. The Vedas are there. Rig Veda is the oldest, no doubt. Atharvaveda is primitive science. Samveda is almost a kind of a musical treatise. And this Yajurveda, almost a prose and all about how you conduct the yagnas. So, naturally, this Vedic text may be asked. Still, it has not been asked. Then there are Upaveds, Yajur, this Dhanur Ved, Ayurveda, all these things. Then there are Sat Darshan, 6 philosophical systems. Nyaya, Abhishek, then this Sankhya, all these Uttar Mimamsa, Anmimamsa, all these other. So there can be questions. Still, it has not come. Next, the very important part is that the Mauryan art and architecture. Since this is part of history, not part of culture, that Buddhism or Jainism or Ajiviks, there were more than 60 such heretic religions. Shankaracharya said, these Buddhists are atheists. His whole life goal was demolish the Buddhists. And probably to some extent, he was able, with many people, demolish Buddhism. Buddhism was a revolution. Jainism was a revolution. Nehemiah in Palestine of the revolution, Confucius of the revolution, Lao Tzu of the revolution. Why? In this 6th century, every society was bitten by a bad dog. What is the reason? The reason was iron. Iron was found some 1000 years ago, but it was used for agriculture only 600 years before Christ. Some people are angry. Why you talk of only, or why people talk of only Christ? We don't have anything. Don't be ethnocentric. Learn it, even if you have to learn it from the Saturn. So, ethnocentrism means you are proud of your own culture. Nothing wrong. But we should be this is the age of science. Just before 10 years of this period, we won't have, just imagine that we can have an online class and you people would be just harangued by an old man like me. But this is now a fact. And this fact has been achieved by science, by technology. So we have to be scientific. We have to be, science is when applied in the production of things, that becomes technology, that technique becomes technology. Man is man because man produces things. Man has a technology. No other animal has technology. So, as far as Buddhism is concerned, Jainism is concerned, it represented revolution, and this revolution was godlessness. No God in Buddhism, no God in Jainism. Three Ratna in Buddhism: Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Sangham, Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Sangham Gacchami, and Sangham Saranam. These three combined together is the whole divinity in Buddhism. No God. So this is part of history. The history teachers will tell you. And even the Jainis, they didn't have any concept of God, but they have their own rituals and all have their theologies. They have been. Jainism could never cross the boundaries of India by a massive scale. And Buddhism became the religion of Asia. Buddhism was given a great jolt by the Muslims. They destroyed in Afghanistan, they destroyed in this Central Asian regions, even in Bangladesh and even in some other parts. But Buddhism remained as a strong force in Southeast Asia, strong force in Sri Lanka also. So this is, when we come to art and architecture, Ashoka was the great man in the Mauryan ruler who was a great builder. His building enterprise probably was only for one thing. He wanted to spread Buddhism, not to show his strength. Many people say that he erected that Ashokan Stamp. No, it was not for that, but it was for just popularizing the Buddhist Dhamma. It was written there. So he constructed four things. One is the Ashokan pillar, the second is the stupas, the third is these vihars, and the fourth is, in some places, chaityas. What is chaitya? The place of worship. How they worship? They take the rounds, they yarn, they did this, Mahayana, Heenyan. They think that the whole world is moving, so they also move. This is their part of ritual, nothing to worry, nothing to just joke, nothing to just laugh. But this is, every religion has its own rituals. And all these structures, after a show, became popular. After a show, there are many kings who constructed caves, Ajanta, Ellora. All Ajanta has many caves, and excellent paintings are there, excellent sculptures are there. Now, after this Mauryan structure, you have to read about two things. The Mauryans were inspired by Buddhism. So was the case with two art styles. Probably the period is 1st century BC to 2nd century AD or even better. Now, as far as this art is concerned, I say Gandhar art is one. Every alternate year, you'll get a question on Gandhar art and Mathura art. What is Gandhar? Gandhar is a place now in Pakistan, Afghanistan, just bordering. And Mahabharata character, Gandhari was from Gandhar. And so, at one time, probably at the time of the Aryans, the whole area was one. Later on, it got divided. But Gandhar art is famous for two things. They are all Buddhist. The Mathura is also Buddhist. But then in Gandhar art, Buddha is shown as a very, very strong man, strong personality, but an ascetic, eyes closed, always in the place or always in the posture of meditation. So, as far as Mathura is concerned, in Mathura, Indian gods just they just interfere. They are yakshas, they are yakshinis, there are this Jain emblems, other emblems. Buddha in this Mathura art is something sensuous, beautiful, Kamdev, Cupid, all those things. He seems to be somewhat like a prince. Yes, his hair is curly like the Greek gods. But in Gandhar, he is almost an epicenter or epitome of Greek god. As far as Mathura is concerned, he becomes more an Indian Rajkumar, Indian prince, sensuous and all, with that kind of achieving capacities. So, and he is seen shown in many postures, lying, standing, sitting, all those. So, even in Andhra Pradesh, there was this art form, not very permanent because now it has been very much destroyed. And but there, the sensuous character, the daughters of Mara, they tried to attract Buddha's attention, and so those have been depicted in stone structures. And so it is said that this is part of that Mathura art, part of Gandhar, long traditions. So there will be, remember, if you like it, you do not like it, hate it, you love it, but you have to read Gandhar art, you have to read Mathura art, and you have to write. You say, sir, I am not finding that Buddha is sensuous, Buddha is very, very strong. I see it from the eyes of a lover or from the eyes of a beloved, and then only you'll find how Buddha looks. What is his push? Next you come, we are just jumping almost 200 years, the Guptas. Probably the Guptas were the feudatories of the Kushan Rajas. Kushans, their ancestors came from China. They established the rule, became Buddhist, became very powerful. At that time, the Sangiti in Kashmir was held, and the fourth Sangiti, and people say that from that period, the decline of the Buddhism. That decline came much later, and this Mahayana and Hinayan, that got divided into the third Sangiti itself. When we talk of Guptas, probably I say that they are famous for three things. You may differ. Number one, their coins, beautiful coins. Some people said, even R.S. Sharma said, that this was called a golden age because there was abundance of gold coins, whatever abundance or no abundance, but the gold coins are very, very beautiful. Numismatics of the Gupta period would be a question, had been a question, and you must expect the questions. Samudragupta coins, Chandragupta coins, the Lakshmi coins, all those coins, they are beautiful on both sides. On one side, the gilt coins, and so mart coins. The second thing about the Guptas is they started building the temples. They were Brahmins. They're many people say that they're the traders, but they are influenced by Brahminical revival. After the not the slowing process of decline of the Buddhist and Jainism, Brahmanism emerged at the time of Buddhas. There was a revival of this, and so Mahabharata was completed. So the whole this jati system, caste system came from that period. Then the Varna system was consolidated, the Varna system transformed into the caste system. All these things happened. so this temple is structured. I'm coming on to that. Deogarh temple is a classic example of the Buddhist temple structure. So, and that's a Panchayatan temple. You'll read about it. The next thing the contribution is probably is what is Skanda Gupta. I do not know very exactly, but probably it was he who started constructing the Nalanda University. It is their great contribution. Not exactly who was the Gupta king, but definitely we know that it was the Gupta dynasty king who started the construction of the Nalanda University. Now, after the Guptas, although there were many rulers, Harshvardhan was there. You may be asked about his book or about the period. Harshvardhan probably he became a Buddhist under the influence of Hwangsa or Huabo. And then in Kannauj, he organized a conference of the Mahayani Buddhists. That's a fact. But it is said that he was the first king of India who wanted to establish and build an Indian empire. Unfortunately, Pulkesin II, the Chalukya king, he defeated Harshvardhan and his dream remained unfulfilled. It's a fact that in the temple structure, because it would be a question. Temple, Panchayatan temple was asked in 2016. There would be 2.5 questions from culture and architecture. And you have to, because there is no option, there is a compulsion that you have to answer all the questions, 20 questions, all. No alternative, no vikalp, no chance, no multiple chance. So you have to compulsorily read this art or this architecture. As far as the temple structure is concerned, we Indians are fond of temples, fond of mosque, fond of dargah, fond of madrasa, fond of this church. Anybody who is very happy constructing a church, very happy constructing a temple, very happy constructing a mosque, or he gets mostly these churches, these temples, these mosques, these dargahs have been the other side built. They are the punya. Their sins will be excused. They will get some punya, some past things. Do good by just constructing a temple. Many people say that yes, they have constructed it to show their might, constructed it to mark a victory. You see the Cholas. When Rajinder Chol defeated this probably Mahipal, he said, Gangai Konda Cholapu, I have conquered the Ganges. Now, you see that he did construct the temple. in Cholapuram much earlier, before he defeated the Pals. And his father, Rajarajawan, Brihadasya temple was not constructed just to show any victory or any commemoratory victory. He constructed this massive temple, and probably, as far as my knowledge goes, this is the largest temple structure. The Rajarajawan temple, Brihadasya temple. Go there, even if you don't have the money, go W ticket without ticket, and they can't do anything. This is a stamp. And so you have the fun of seeing the mass. I'm coming on to that. Temples in India are in North India, they're Nagar style temples. There are many varieties. Bengal has a variety, God temple. Odisha, Jagati, they say they are Sikhs, they are Sikhs. Odisha is a very poor state, rich in number of temples, numerous. Many of them destroyed, no doubt. But still, Odisha has large number of temples. Konark almost destroyed. Bhubaneswar remains, and other places remains, and they have all these temples. Odisha, Gujarat, even Bengal, even Kashmir, Shankaracharya temple in Srinagar. See, they have almost a similar structure. What is the similar structure? They might have one base, either a horse or something else, some kind of a chariot or something. Then there is a platform. When you enter, there is kind of a place where you can just pray, and then you go to the Garbhagriha where the statue or the icon is placed. Then there is a shikhara. A shikhara may be of different types, but there is a kind of this. There shikhars are even the god, even the icon is placed in it. Sometimes he is sleeping, sometimes he is standing, sometimes he is just lying. Sayanadharam. So these are the postures. The second, these are called Naga temples. The second temple, South Indian temples are called as Dravidian temples. Remember, when it comes to temple structure, the South Indian areas cannot be matched by North Indians. One may say, oh, these barbarian Muslims, they destroyed everything. No. Akbar, Sher Shah, they did not. Earlier people, they did destroy anybody. And many of the Buddhist structures were also destroyed by our Hindu kings or the Brahmin kings. This is a fact. So when now the Brahmins or the Buddhists are claiming that, oh, all these Buddhist structures have been destroyed and you have just erected there the Brahminical structures, they're not wrong. Science is science. History is science. History is history. You cannot deny it. My father is my father. My mother is my mother. I cannot deny it. In the same way, my history is my history. So history is what? History is your shadow. No matter whatever, whenever you like, or whatever, however you like, or how much you like, your shadow cannot leave. So, when we talk of this, and when we talk of the Dravidian structures, even the Dravidian temples are very different from one another. You take the Cholas, the temple, that basic structure is there. 5 things are common things as far as the Dravidian temples are concerned. Number 1, there is a Gopura, gate, massive gate. Even the elephant can enter from there. Gopura. Indian gates, go Badrinath, go Vaishno Devi. Deep. There are no sufficient space. There are spaces in the Dravidian temples. Even the elephant can march with all his majesty. So then the second element is, I said 5. The second element is a long alley. Old persons, these Dravidians, these Tamils, they have constructed such long areas. It takes almost 15 minutes, 20 minutes to walk to the Vimana or walk to that Garbhagriha. The third thing is that as far as South Indian Dravidian temples are concerned, the icon is placed on the surface. There is no inside Garbhagriha. It is this, and the place of worship, the place of as this Vijayanagar in Parus, the Kalyanam, where they just worshipped it. Where some of the temples were used for marriage. Yes, that happens. So even now in modern India, when people are not able to just afford large amount of dowry, oh, marriage will take place in this temple. Very common, very common, very common thing. So temple and marriage, mosque and marriage, they have been common things in India. So naturally, when the Dravidian temples come, I said 5 things. I've called Gopuram, I've called this long alley. Then we have this flat sanctum sanctorum, and then the Vimana, the fourth thing, the Vimana. Oh, tall structure. You can see it from 5 kilometers away. Go south and see the temples. Such large Vimanas. And so it's kind of just a pride that our temple has seen. The fifth thing is all South Indian temples are boundaries. In North Indian temples, Naga temples, even the dog is allowed on the platform. Maybe the Dalits are not allowed, but the dogs are allowed. So you may be angry or me, but when I say this I have given the example of segmentation of Indian culture. This segmentation, this division is part. And so the Dravidian temples have these 5 things. There are numerous differences. You take the Chola temples, you take the Vijayanagar temples, you take the Hoysala temples. They are different from one another, but all have these 5 common things. In the Vijayanagar temples, you just see that Yati, horse-like structure on all pillars. They represent power. They represent horse. Vijayanagar is an important question, and in art and culture, you have to write about architectural achievements or other achievements of the Vijayanagar part. Cholas have not been asked as art form, but their history has been asked. Sangam, nothing in art, but their history, Sangam age history would be asked. And then as far as this structures are concerned, you will have some regime-based questions. I told you one, just read, you have to read about the Vijayanagar Empire's cultural achievements. Earlier question is, I must tell you the third time, that this Besara style. The Rajputs were very famous in this Badami or Batapi or Aihole. Even some of this Hoysala temples are mixed varieties. Besara is nothing but mixed variety. There is a platform, there is no base, or there is no just a pillar, or they have got this icon on the surface. So it is a mixture. All South Indian temples, they do not have conical shikhara or conical top. No dhwaj, nothing like that. So when I say that you have some questions on regimes, one regime is Vijayanagar. The architectural achievement of Vijayanagar Empire is a question. The second Question is the architectural or the art achievement of the Pal structures, the Pals. Pals were the last important Buddhist rulers in India. They started from the 8th century, they went up to the 11th century, and after that they declined, probably by Lakshman Sen and some other rulers in Bengal. But the Pals who ruled in the Buddhist land, Bihar and Bengal, they were respected for that. The Pals had good connection with the Arabians, the Sulaimani kingdom, and they had interaction with them in their courts. They sent their emissaries. The Pals constructed beautiful temples and beautiful Bihar's universities. It was Gopal who constructed the Audantapuri University, now totally destroyed by this barbarian Bakhtiyar Khilji. And Vikramshila University, also constructed by these Pals. And then Somapuram, Bihara, now in Bangladesh, that was also constructed by the Pals. So the Buddhist rulers, they were influenced by Buddhism, and they just worshipped the Vajrayana of Buddhism, and that's why they had some special importance in Tibet, some importance in Mongolia, because these all are Vajrayani areas. Now, as far as Pals are concerned, probably it is said that at their time, Atasi was there, a great Buddhist scholar who was even in Nalanda, and the Pals reconstructed Nalanda. The Sri Vijay ruler, Java ruler, he donated 5 villages for Nalanda University, and he constructed a separate Bihar for the Buddhist shamans. That's entirely different from what the Bihar, sir. But Bihar has inspired the name of this Bihar state. So I said regime-oriented questions. One is Vijayanagar, another is Pal. 2021 question you see, there was the reference to Pals. 220 or 2020 or 2021. You just see it, but it was describe and evaluate the Pal achievements in art and architecture. Then the third regime is the Hoysala regime. From 1350 to almost 1050 to 1350, they are earlier than the Vijayanagar Empire, because Vijayanagar Empire was Bukka and Harihar. They founded the Vijayanagar Empire in 1336. So, these Hoysala rulers, not very important rulers, they ruled Karnataka, most of the Karnataka. Karnataka has been a most important place for cultural achievements. Karnataka, Kuntal Pradesh, Karnataka, Kuntal Pradesh. This had very important Udepi, Karnataka, Brahmacharya, all that, not Ramanujacharya, but Brahmacharya from Karnataka. And this movement of the Shaivas, that also happened in Karnataka, culturally very strong. And Hoysala temples, most beautiful temples in India. One of the reasons is that they are made of the soapstone, or the very, very laxative stone, and so they can do many of the figures. Vishnu basically were Vaishnavas. Some of the Shiva temples are also there. Some of the Buddhist Jainese places are also there. And Karnataka is the center of the Jain rulers, the Kalava rulers. For 300 years, 600 to probably 900 years, they were the rulers there. And they're the Jain rulers. So it is a place of the Jains as far as India is concerned. Now, coming to this other questions or other parts. there is or there can be in North India for the art purposes, Chandela rulers were Central India. They had different. Khajuraho was the place where they constructed the temples. Khajuraho temples have erotic images, erotic sculptures. People are still in a fix. Why these erotic structures or erotic engravings? Probably it was the Vajrayani Buddhism which influenced this because among them the belief is that sex act is a kind of a worship. It's a kind of so Ashar Rajneesh wrote a book, Sambhog se Samadhi, from intercourse to you can just achieve this whole samadhi or religious salvation. So this is probably the reason. But they had Khajuraho temples, so all Kailas, Shiva temples or Mahashiva temples, all temples have these things. But every temple does not have. There are many temples which do not have this. As far as then the second is that next is then the Sultanate, the Sultans, Alauddin Khilji, or the earlier Sultan is this Qutub Minar. Qutub Minar is not constructed for the king. It has been constructed by, and it's a fact, this has been constructed the demolition of temples. Anybody who can go see and send the Qutub Minar. So now there is much of talk that this is a so let us just here destroy the Qutub Minar if it's something. But I think, and my senior advice is that history is history. You cannot deny. History is your shadow. So naturally, what has happened, and it is a historical heritage. Let us preserve it, but know the history. So it has been Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki is the saint. His tomb is still there, his dargah is still there. In his memory, that was constructed. Alai Darwaja, Alauddin Khilji constructed the same place. And then Alauddin Khilji probably was the first Sultan who conquered the whole of India from Punjab to this southern Kanyakumari area, the whole of area. And he had this eunuch General Malik Kafur, was very brave, and sometimes he was offered wives, and he said, I'm not able to do all this. But he wanted to become a sultan in his last days. He couldn't become, but he was the man who conquered areas for Alauddin Khilji. There are many myths, legends related to Alauddin Khilji. But probably he was a good ruler who introduced market reforms. Those among you who are history students might be knowing that his economic policies are still very, very important, and he tried to control the markets. Now when the markets have become almost unleased, without any lease, without any control, probably Alauddin was a better man. He tried to control the markets. Now, among the sultans, there are three things which they tried to do. Number one, all of them were fascinated by gardens, Lodi gardens, these gardens, Tughlaq, he also constructed a garden. They brought the roses from Central Asia to this land. Still, rose is not used very much in the Hindu worship. Outside, they do not use it. Marigold and other flowers, they use it. Not much of rose. They use by roses, dargah, by just garlanding people, garlanding Netaji, but not for worship, because there is an assumption that has come from outside. Probably many people do not know that the 90% of things we use, they have all come from outside. So, because India is a country where many people have come from very these shucks, these bones, all have come from outside. So let us be proud of it that there is so much of mixture and so much of variety in our culture. So and as far as this, I think three things. One is the gardens. Another is the massive structures, and those structures are central structures like pumpkins. For the first time, the minarets and the kind of the minarets like the pumpkins they were used, or the watermelons, that kind of shape was used for the first time in India. And the third thing is that they introduced madrasas. Anybody was very happy, had much of leisure. He constructed 2 or 3 madrasas. He constructed 2 or 3 mosques. Now, then we come to the southern Indian, the sultans or the Deccani sultans. Deccani sultans were also master builders. They built Charminar. So, Qutub Shahi. So there is now talk that the name of Hyderabad should be changed to Bhagyanagar. Why? Because this Qutub he loved a lady, the farmer's daughter, not a very queen or princess, nothing else. And love is love, it's blind. He loved that lady, Bhagavati. But she lived around just across this Musi river. And Bhagmati did not give any care to this bugger. Once there was flood, and she lived near the river. So this Kutu passed on his head, crossed the river, and the Bhagmati was he is so much fascinated. She married this man, and then she didn't accept Islam initially. After 4 years, when she accepted, and then she was given the name Hyder Mahal, and his memory, Hyderabad was constructed. Since he was Bhagavati, our Amit Sahaji is saying that no, the city should be called as Bhagnagar. So now, yes, this is politics. There are 3 resources. One is power, another is money, another is culture, language, literature, poetry, art, philosophy, intellect, all these things. All are important. But somehow or other, this is the most. Whoever wins power, he wins culture, he wins wealth, he wins money. So actually, this may happen, but this is southern or Deccani sultans. They were also great builders, and they built many things. They had almost a regular running battle or war with the Vijayanagar Empire. Ultimately, in 1565, a combined force of the Deccani sultans destroyed the whole Vijayanagar Empire. They destroyed everything. Those buggers have discontinued with the beautiful temple structures. But at least one place is still remain intact. That is Hampi, beautiful temples and small temples. An example of this Vijayanagar Empire. Now, there are certain things you may be surprised. I think there are 2 things. Number one, Vijayanagar is a place which is in Karnataka. But these Vijayanagar rulers, they have done everything for Telugu. Telugu Pitamah was there. They are very Hindu, very Brahminical scholars. Madhav probably was there. And this Vijayanagar Empire, I say, while remaining in Karnataka, they had very few books in Kannada, almost all in Telugu, and they have translated numerous books from Sanskrit to Kannada. So probably they were originally from the Andhra region or the Telugu region. They conquered that area and founded this Sultanate courtiers. They founded this. Now, as far as the Mughals are concerned, Mughals are also were the great leaders, somewhat culturally sensitive people also. Babur was invited to settle the internal scores, to just give a jolt to this crime lorry. And so when Babur came, you see that Babur is a literary man. He wrote the book Ibn Tujut, Babur Nama. How many rulers of India? Yes, Harshvardhan. There are many. Among Vash, that Rajput ruler, great man, the founder of Kannada language, Among Vash, a great literary personality. Ours, this is Samudragupta, he who was also probably a peanut player. But they are rare. And Akbar was a LLPP Likhloda Parpathar. He was a illiterate person, but he respected those people who were very learned, and that's why he continued this tradition of Navratnas. Probably Chandragupta I had his Navratnas, Akbar had his Navratnas. He was illiterate, but he respected the Portuguese scholars also in his court. So naturally, as far as this Mughal period is concerned, Taj Mahal won't be asked, but the questions can be that what are the Mughal contribution to painting? They started a new style. What has been the contribution to music of the Mughals? They started a new system of music that is called Hindustani. It's the creation, it's the contribution of the Mughals. So there are two music systems. One is Hindustani, another is Karnataka music. I have already told you that Karnataka may not have many things, may be just subjugated by communalism or fundamentalism, but culturally there is none to excel or none to just stand at the before Karnataka, Kuntal Pradesh. Great. So Karnataka music, not Dravid music, Karnataka music. The Hindustani music was contributed by the Mughals, no doubt, and they had the Mughal painting style, and later it was called a Rajput style painting. But still, we have, from 2013, the pattern of questions have changed. You also should remember that don't go before 2013 when you see the old questions. Now the questions are more thematic questions. More thematic. For example, the Ashokan pillar or the Mauryan structures, they are not only symbols of this art or this architecture, but they also indicate, they also just symbolize Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist theology. This kind of question, you'll have to write this, how there are pictures in the stupas, how this stup characterizes certain other things, how the relics, what they symbolize. This question here. Some of the questions, for example, when the Ashokan pillar is there, you must draw the image of Ashokan pillar that will give you more marks. As far as the Mughals are concerned, I told you that the Mughal contribution to music, Mughal contribution to this, even this thing that Akbar tried to present a real religious synthesis and why he was not successful and why he became successful, whatever it is your opinion, you can just justify them. And so, lastly, in the Mughals, there have been only twice from 2013 to 2021, there were two times questions have come, and you see those questions. One was regarding the Akbar's place of discourse, and the second is the contribution of Mughals to this building architecture. When the Mughals, Shah Jahan was the greatest builder, not a great king, not a great warrior that Akbar was, that Aurangzeb was, but not others, not this Shah Jahan man. And Tara Siko, the greatest scholar, he translated this Panchatantra into Persian. But that may be, many people, many historians have, because I'm not a student of history, but I'm immensely interested in history. And so some of people with whom I have interacted, Arish Sharma, a regular visitor to my house, and I was a regular visitor to the house. So, and always tried to just press on us that, no, you should read. And so they see that these people were particularly interested in art and architecture. All rulers in India have been religiously inclined. They have definitely done something to praise their divine cause or the divinity. India is a religious society, and probably it will remain a religious society. A religion is very important in India. There was a French monk who fled from France because of the terror of the French Revolution. His name was Abbé de Bois. He wrote a book, Hindu Manners, Customs and Ceremonies, a celebrated book still. What is said in India, people rarely fight for money. In India, people rarely fight for women. Sitaji was, the myth says that Sitaji was taken. Ramji did not respect Sitaji. When you just analytically analyze what he did. Now the gender champions or the women champions are questioning the role of Ram in that. So, yes, Baj Bahadur was a ruler, and Alauddin is rumored to Alauddin was a very, very power-hungry man. He was not very much, he never had, looked very bad and ugly as far as his images are there. So, even you can see, you ask me what things will let's read. Now, one thing is still there has been no question from the British period as far as art and architecture is concerned. Nothing of that sort. That the British period was very important because theatre was revived in this period. Dance was revived in this period. Mughals and Muslim rulers were totally opposed to dance. Akbar was not a Muslim, but many people say they said respect the Muslims. Aurangzeb, they said this Akbar was a rogue, he was an avara, he was a philander, nothing else. So naturally, but Akbar was very sensitive. Akbar was really a great ruler, and he respected people, he respected scholars, he respected his stance and all people were there. Now, as far as the modern period is concerned, because of the demolition of art and architecture, music and drama at the time of the British, there was a revival of all these things. And this revival was an important thing in the sense that in India, the tradition which was gone, the tradition which was destroyed by the Muslim rulers, it was again revived. Yakshagan was almost Karnataka thing, almost gone, but this was again revived. Now it is no longer exists. But because now is the age of cinema, now it's the age of television. Now a few people are interested, but some people who are interested, they are interested like anything. So if you are very interested, you just find that these things started at the time of British. The British structures, the Portuguese structures are many. The Dutch structures, the Pulicat structures are very great structures. And even in Bihar, some of the structures constructed by the Dutch, they were places for storing opium. But they're marvelous buildings, and they depict the whole architectural style of the Dutch people. As happened in the Renaissance period. Renaissance was not a religious revival. Renaissance was a destruction of religion as such, because it worshipped individual capacity, it individual price. So churches might have been constructed, but the church at that time showed that how important the individual is. So naturally, at the time of British, at the time of Portuguese, they were the people who opened modern colleges. They were the people who established Geological Survey of India, Archaeological Survey of India. So these are the things we must respect that they have done these things and they have done good for India. But still, as far as questions are concerned, these questions have not been asked. Your one thing you will ask that where from you can read this art and architecture, art and culture. So as far as this art and architecture is concerned, NCERT book, Introduction to Indian Art, is a very introduction to Indian art is a very good book. Second book is that you will find H.R. Ghosal. That's not a book of art, but this gives you an idea how different periods are important as far as art is concerned or their contributions. So naturally, it is true that nothing much is available as far as art and architecture is concerned, because you don't have to be an expert of art. Vijayanagar Empire totally destroyed. If the things would have remained, they would have really achieved or would have been things of great scholars. The Lotus Temple, even in there, Lotus Palace, you only remain there. You go there in Vijayanagar, you find everything is in ruins, everything is destroyed. But you can describe that this was a structure, this was a composite structure. It is also a fact when you see that enmity is also a great relationship. Those with whom you have enmity, you always try to. So the two wives of one. Our Dasratji, Raja Dasrath, Kaikeyi was the favorite queen. And what kind of relation Kaikeyi had with Kausalya? It was also a relationship, and a type of relationship. And so what I say, that even in the Vijayanagar Empire and the Bahmani rulers, they also influenced each other. They also influenced each other, and that is reflected. I have already told you that it will be better for you if you have got the time, visit some places and go Qutub Minar, see the place and see know that other areas in Delhi. Delhi is a marvelous place for all these things. And I don't think that it will be a waste of time if you visit those areas. And so find time. And you can just see yourself how these structures work. Thank you very much. And if you have got any questions, I will just ready to answer questions. Yeah. Hello, can you listen me? Hello, can you listen me? If I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yeah, just loudly.
Sir. Hello, yes. Are you getting my voice, sir? Hello.
Just a minute.
Sir, apart of NCERT books, is there any another reference books, sir? Nitin Singhania like that? Book is very bulky now, sir. How we can able to complete within 2 to 3 months, sir, that one? Hello? Sir, are you getting my voice or not, sir?
I'm doing it.
Sir, Nitin Singhania book is there now, sir.
Say it again.
Nitin Singhania book is there now, sir. It's a very bulky book, sir. How we can able to remember that type of all heavy data, sir?
I'm sorry to say that Nitin Singhania, yes, I'm sorry to say, with all apologies to Nitin Singhania, I must apologize to him that the book has outlived its utility. The book has outlived its utility. Why? Why I say this? Because the questions which came before 2013 can be answered by Nitin Singhania. The instrumental, the singing, the classical music, the folk dance, the dance forms. Is there any question after 2013 on dance form, on classical music, on folk dance? Earlier, these were the popular questions. Nitin Singhania, that massive book, has written. I didn't want to just tell that I have written also a book, and that would be available in the market in the month of June. But that's a book which I have written under orders, because the publishers ordered me that you have to write this. Even if I did not like, I wrote this. But I think that I have tried to cover whole Indian history. That means barring geography, everything is there in the proposed book Society in India. The name of the book is Society in India, being published by S. Chan and Company. And probably that will be available by June this year itself. So in that, but I don't think that my book is also sufficient. Some kind of reading of this NCERT book is necessary. If you read that NCERT book, that would be good, that would be proper, that would be just in the right spirit, you should do that. Okay, another question. Any other question?
That is A.L. Bhasan important?
Yeah. Repeat. If
can we have to read A.L. Bhasan? A.L. Bhasan, sir. A.L.
Yes.
Bhasan.
Why not? Why not? Neki or pooch. At the first instance, if you can read A.L. Bhasan, I didn't tell you because of only one thing. You will say, sir, this is such a massive book, and how can you? If you have the time, read it at once. The wonder that was India, and even that cultural history of India edited book. If you have the opportunity, if you have the availability of that book, Cultural History of India, must go for it. Must read that at least first chapter. First, second, and third chapter of A.L. Bhasan are very good chapters. Basam Sahib was a great scholar of Sanskrit. And I have written in the preface of that book that we had interacted with Basam many times. At least we were undergraduate students at that time. We could not understand much what he said. And the chapters he had written about Varna, is written about that different periods, cultural achievements. You read them if you have the chance. Definitely, compulsorily, you find that, but don't go for this photo-state copy. Buy the original book or go to some university library or so, if it is available. Not those libraries where people go for only gossiping. And if you have this opportunity to get the book, read it. Must read it. It's a very wonderful book and a very good book. In Hindi, I don't think there are any books for that. But in English, as I said, Ghosal, I said Basam, I say that NCERT book. At least read once that NCERT. You'll find interesting that how the Odisha style is different from the Gaudi style. You see Bengal temples, they're almost umbrella-like coverage. You see South Indian temples, none have a shikhara, that is a conical shikhara. Indian Nagar style temples, all conical. So the Odisha temples, different shikharas they have. So you find that India has such a very, go Gujarat, go Rajasthan, Mount Abu, the Jain temples, so beautiful, but again so different from the Brahminic. At least if you see, if you have the time, our preference is not traveling, but if you have the time, if you have the opportunity, you should do it and you should do it at the first. Any other questions?
Yes, sir, I have a question.
Yeah, just say it.
Sir, earlier you mentioned that there are two sources mainly for art and culture. One was NCERT Class 11th, Introduction to Indian Art. What was the name of the other book that you said?
I had told you the H.R. Ghosal,
H.R.
History of Indian People. H.R. Ghosal.
Ghoshal.
Ghosal.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Actually, published by Publication Division of India. Now remember, one person asked, and I should just apologize to Nitin Singhania, that now the questions, you see the question 2013, 2014, 2015, 16, 17. These questions are interpretative questions on art and architecture, not descriptive questions, interpretative questions. So, in Ghosal's book, you will not find anything of a depiction. So, this is the Ashokan pillar, or this is the Gupta coin, or this is the Samudragupta coin. You will not find that. But there, in the Ghosal book, you will get the interpretation. You'll get the interpretation. I told you that religion has been an important part of Indian culture. And every ruler has tried to promote his belief or his own religion. The Vaishnavas and the Shaivas, they have fought for almost 200 years in South. If you see the South Indian temples, go Bangalore, Durga Temple, go Meenakshi, Puram, and see the Meenakshi. You will find that there is a kind of hostility between these goddesses and the gods, and then the Vishnu temple and the Shiva temple. There is no reference to it. The Vijayanagar Empire was a Vaishnava follower. So they don't have many Shaiva structures. So just understand this intricacy and then you will be able to write. Now, descriptive questions. Oh, this is the this hair style of Buddha is Greek style. Not that. Now the question is that the Gandhar Buddha represents what? Vitality or sensuality? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much. I take permission of you to leave, and thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, sir.